The UEF Curiosity drifted silently through the void, its hull glinting under the distant light of a dying star. Inside, the crew moved with quiet urgency, their boots clicking against the metal floors as they monitored scanners and adjusted trajectories. The ship was a research vessel, not a warship. Its mission was discovery, not destruction. Then the alarms blared. You identified the object at 037 Mark II. Lieutenant Marivoss snapped, her fingers flying across the holographic display. It's small, maybe a pod, but it's emitting biosigns. Captain Harlow leaned over her shoulder, his dark eyes narrowing. Alien. Unknown, but it's not human. A ripple of tension passed through the command deck. First contact scenarios were drilled into every spacer's skull, protocols, precautions, nightmares of hostile encounters. But this? A lone pod, adrift in the black? It didn't fit any expected pattern. Bring it in, Harlow ordered, carefully. The pod was hauled into the Curiosity's main lab, its surface slick with an organic-looking resin that pulsed faintly under the sterile white lights. The xenobiology team gathered around it, clad in hazard suits just in case. Dr. Elias Carter, lead scientist, ran a gloved hand along the pod's seam. It's alive, he murmured, or at least part of it is. With a hiss, the pod split open. Inside lay a figure, humanoid, but unmistakably alien. Sleek, iridescent skin shimmered in blues and purples, shifting hues like a deep-sea creature. The being was female in shape, with a slender frame, but her arms ended in delicate, articulate tendrils rather than fingers. And then there was the other thing. A mass of coiled, muscular appendages shifted at her lower abdomen, moving with a life of their own, smooth, sinewy, undulating like an octopus exploring its surroundings. Reproductive organ, whispered Dr. Lin, the team's geneticist. Or a defense mechanism, Carter countered, though his scientific curiosity burned bright. Either way, it's unlike anything we've seen. The alien's chest rose. She was breathing. Alive. Then her eyes snapped open. They were black, pupilless, but somehow alive with intelligence. For a heartbeat, there was only silence as the alien took in her surroundings. The humans in their bohy suits, the cold metal walls, the unfamiliar air. Then she moved. Fast, too fast. Her tendrils lashed out, sending equipment crashing to the floor. A monitor exploded in a shower of sparks as one whip-like limb struck it. The scientist stumbled back, shouting, as the alien twisted upright, her strange lower appendages spreading like a living shield. Sedate her, Harlow barked over the comms. A security officer fired a tranquilizer dart. It struck her shoulder, but instead of collapsing, she ripped it out with a snarl, her bioluminescence flaring in angry reds. Carter didn't retreat. He raised his hand slowly, making himself small, unthreatening. Easy, he said, voice low. We're not your enemies. The alien froze, her head tilting. Did she understand? Then the ship's comms crackled to life. Captain, Voss's voice was sharp. We're being hailed, and it's not human. A deep, guttural voice filled the lab, speaking in broken but unmistakable English. Return our queen spawn, or be eradicated. Silence. The alien, Queen Spawn, looked at Carter. For the first time, something like fear flickered in those dark, endless eyes. Outside the ship, space itself seemed to ripple. Something was coming. The void maw recoiled from the hybrid assault, its form rippling like oil on water, but it didn't flee. It regrouped. Tendrils of darkness coiled tighter, drawing in from the edges of the system, condensing into something denser, something angrier. On the bridge of the UEF Curiosity, Captain Harlow watched the tactical display with gritted teeth. It's pulling back to strike harder. Ziara's voice crackled over the comms, her bioluminescence flickering in the void. It knows we can hurt it now. It will not run. It will erase us. Earth's defense fleet scrambled into position, a pitiful line of steel against the cosmic predator. They wouldn't last minutes. Dr. Carter's hands hovered over the console. There's another way. All eyes turned to him. He pulled up Ziara's genetic scans, the hybrid schematics, the void maw's reaction patterns. The hybrids disrupt it because they're unstable, unpredictable, but to kill it. He looked at Ziara. We need to weaponize that. Zyara went very still. Then softly, you mean my brood? A hush fell. Harlow understood first. You'd have to sacrifice your reproductive capability, permanently. Zyara's tendrils curled tight. A queen who cannot spawn is no queen at all. Outside, the void maw lunged. Zyara made her choice. The process wasn't clean. Zyara's body convulsed as her reproductive organs detached, the writhing mass of tentacles reshaping itself into something new, a living bomb, pulsing with unstable genetic energy. The hybrids carried it into the void, a grim procession toward the heart of the darkness. Rivas turned to Zyara one last time. We'll make it count. Zyara said nothing. She didn't need to. The void maw sensed the threat. It screamed, tendrils whipping forward to intercept. But the hybrids were faster. They dove, slamming the bioweapon deep into the maw's core. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, light. A shockwave of brilliant gold erupted from the maw's center, tearing through the darkness like fire through paper. The entity thrashed, its form unraveling, dissolving into static and screams. On the Curiosity, Carter shielded his eyes as the view screen whited out. When the glare faded, the void maw was gone. Only the hybrids remained, floating, motionless, their bodies spent. Victorious and lifeless, silence gripped the ship. Zyara stared at the wreckage of her people, her future, her purpose. Harlow exhaled slowly. It's over. Zyara turned her dark, endless eyes toward Earth. No, she said softly. It's just beginning. The UEF Curiosity groaned under the strain of evasive maneuvers, its hull vibrating from mere misses and glancing blows. Behind them, the Xanthari swarm moved like a living tide, unstoppable, inevitable. Captain Harlow gripped the armrests of his chair, his voice cutting through the chaos. We need options. Now. Dr. Carter's mind raced. He glanced at Zyara, her alien eyes tracking the swarm on the view screen. There was something in her expression, not just fear, but calculation. You said they're your people, Carter said, but you don't want to go back. Zyara's tendrils coiled tight. I was meant to breed a new swarm, stronger, faster. But I refused. A console sparked violently as another near hit rattled the ship. That's why they want you so badly, Carter realized. You're not just a prisoner. You're the key to their survival. Zyara nodded. And now, so are you. The lab was a mess of overturned equipment and flickering holoscreens. Carter and his team worked frantically, pulling up every scrap of data they had on Zyara's biology. Her genetic code flashed across the screens. Unstable, adaptable, malleable. Dr. Lean sucked in a sharp breath. Look at this. Her reproductive system doesn't just produce offspring. It merges with foreign DNA, creates hybrids. Carter's pulse spiked. You're saying we could combine human and Xanthari traits. Not just could, Lean said. Have to. The swarm outnumbers us 1,000 to 1. We need soldiers who can fight like them. A heavy silence settled over the lab. The implications were clear and terrifying. Zyara stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. I will not force this on your people, but if you choose it, I can help. Harlow's voice crackled over the comm. Do it. We're out of time. The first volunteer was Sergeant Rivas, a hardened Marine with a busted knee and nothing to lose. He stood rigid as Zyara approached, her tendrils shifting nervously. You understand what this means? She asked. Rivas grinned. Lady, if it means I get to punch those bugs twice as hard, sign me up. The process was organic. Zyara's lower appendages extended, wrapping around Rivas' arm in a slow, deliberate motion. The flesh beneath shimmered, then changed, muscles thickening, skin darkening into a chitin-like layer. Rivas gasped, his back arching, then stood, flexing his new limb. It was stronger, sharper. Hell yeah, he breathed. The other Marines stared, then stepped forward one by one. Carter watched, his stomach tight. This wasn't science anymore. This was war. The Xanthari boarding party hit Deck 5 like a hurricane, claws rending metal as they surged forward. The human defenders fell back, pulse rifles doing little more than slowing them down. until the hybrid struck. Rivas moved first, his modified body a blur. He caught a warrior mid-lunge twisted and ripped its arm clean off. The others followed, their enhanced strength turning the tide in seconds. On the bridge, Harlow watched the feed, his breath caught in his throat. It's working. But Zyara didn't celebrate. She stared at the hybrids with something like sorrow. They are mine now, she whispered, and the swarm will never stop coming for them. Outside, the bioships pulsed, their formations shifting. They had seen, and they were angry. The hybrids moved like shadows through the ship's corridors, unnaturally fast, eerily silent. Where human marines had struggled against the Xanthari borders, the hybrids tore through them with terrifying efficiency. Sergeant Rivas led the charge, his modified body a weapon in itself, every strike precise, every movement lethal. On the bridge, Captain Harlow watched the tactical feeds with grim satisfaction. They're pushing them back, he muttered. We might actually survive this. Dr. Carter said nothing. His eyes were fixed on Zyara. The alien queen stood apart from the others, her bioluminescent skin flickering in agitation. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't even watching the battle. She was listening. A sound. No, not a sound. A vibration. Something deep, resonant, humming through the ship's hull like a subsonic whisper. Carter felt it in his bones before he understood it. They're communicating, he realized. The swarm, they're talking to her. Zyara's head snapped toward him, her dark eyes unreadable. Then, without warning, she lunged for the control panel. Alarms blared as emergency protocols overrode command functions. The ship's internal defenses shorted out in a cascade of sparks. What the hell? Harlow roared. Zyara didn't answer. She moved with purpose, her tendrils flying across the console, locking doors, disabling systems. The hybrids froze mid-fight. Then, as one, they turned and obeyed her. Rivas was the first to realize what was happening. His squad had been moments from crushing the last Xanthari borders when the order pulsed through him. Not words, not a voice, but an instinct. A command woven into his very DNA. Stop fighting. His body moved before his mind could protest. He lowered his fists, stepped back. Around him, the other hybrids did the same. The remaining Xanthari warriors didn't attack. They watched. Then, from the ship's comms, Zyara's voice echoed, calm, resolute. I am leaving, she said, and I am taking what is mine. Carter sprinted through the chaos, dodging sparking consoles and panicked crew. He skidded into the hangar bay just in time to see Zyara boarding a stolen shuttle, the hybrids filing in behind her like a silent honor guard. You lied to us, Carter shouted, his voice raw. This was your plan all along. Zyara paused at the shuttle's ramp. For a heartbeat, something like regret flickered across her alien features. No, she said, I changed it. The hatch sealed, the engines flared, and before Carter's disbelieving eyes, the shuttle shot toward the waiting swarm, taking humanity's only hope with it. On the bridge, Harlow stared at the view screen as the bioships began to retreat, Zyara's shuttle disappearing into their monstrous embrace. The immediate threat was gone. But the war, it had only just begun. The silence following the Void Maw's destruction was heavier than space itself. On the UEF Curiosity's observation deck, Zyara pressed a single tendril against the viewport, watching the drifting remnants of the hybrids. Their bodies glowed faintly, embers cooling in the dark. Captain Harlow approached, his boots echoing in the unnatural quiet. Earth's sending recovery teams. We'll bring them home. Zyara didn't turn. They are home. The void birthed them. It claims them now. A console chirped behind them. Dr. Carter's voice crackled through the comm. You need to see this. The science lab hummed with activity. Carter stood before a holographic projection. Zyara's genetic code intertwined with human DNA strands, still active, still evolving. It's not over, Carter said, fingers tracing luminous patterns. The weaponization process. It didn't just destroy the Void Maw. It changed it. The projection shifted, showing deep space scans. Where the Maw had died, new energy signatures pulsed, not consuming, but binding. Matter swirled in unfamiliar patterns. Ziara's bioluminescence flared in recognition. A quantum imprint. More than that, Carter said. It's rebuilding, and it's using the hybrid's DNA as a template. Earth's council chambers erupted when Harlow delivered the news. You're saying we accidentally terraformed a cosmic horror into, what? A nursery? Admiral Singh demanded. On the view screen, the reconstruction continued. Strange, hybrid structures formed in the debris field, part crystalline, part organic, humming with potential. Ziara addressed the council for the first time. The void maw was hunger without purpose. The hybrids gave it one. She extended a tendril toward the projection. This is not an ending. It is a second chance. 3 standard cycles later, the first new hybrid emerged. It floated from the reconstruction zone. Not a warrior, not a human, not synthery. Something other. Its eyes held Ziara's darkness and Riva's determination in equal measure. When it spoke, its voice resonated through every ship in the fleet simultaneously. We remember. Harlow watched as the being extended a hand, half flesh, half chitin, toward Ziara, not in submission, in invitation. Carter exhaled sharply. My God, it's making them better. Across the system, thousands of new lights flickered to life in the dark. The war was over. The evolution had just begun. Silence gripped the UEF Curiosity as the last synthery bioship vanished into the void. The crew stood frozen, caught between relief and disbelief. They had survived, but at what cost? Dr. Carter stared at the empty view screen, his mind racing. Ziara had played them. The hybrids, their only advantage, were gone. And yet, something didn't add up. Why retreat now? He muttered. They had us. Captain Harlow's hands clenched. Doesn't matter. We need to warn Earth. Then the long-range sensors chimed. Lieutenant Voss paled. New contact. Big. Really big. The screen flickered, and space itself rippled. At first, it was just a distortion, a blot against the stars. Then it moved. A vast, shapeless mass, darker than the void around it, tendrils of shadow stretching like a waking beast. The crew watched in mute horror as it passed a distant star, and the light bent around it, swallowed by something that wasn't just matter, wasn't just alive. It was hungry. Ziara's shuttle shuddered as it docked with the lead bioship, the organic airlock sealing behind her with a wet, pulsing sound. The hybrids followed, their human instincts screaming at the rawness of the living walls, the veins pumping thick fluid where circuits should be. The Xanthari warriors bowed as she passed, not to her, to them, to the hybrids. A voice echoed through the chamber, guttural and ancient. You return with our salvation. Zara stepped forward. No, I return with the truth. She gestured to the hybrids. They are strong, adaptable, but they are not yours. The chamber trembled, not from anger, from fear. On a fleshy view screen, the dark mass loomed closer. Ziara's voice dropped to a whisper. We are not conquerors. We are prey. Back on the Curiosity, Carter's screen lit up with an incoming transmission, encrypted, untraceable. He opened it. Ziara's face filled the display, her alien eyes burning with urgency. Listen carefully, she said. The swarm flees the void maw, a predator that devours worlds. We thought to outrun it, to find new hosts to strengthen us. Her tendrils clenched, but your hybrids that resist assimilation, they are the key. The transmission flickered as the dark mass behind her swelled, tendrils grasping at a nearby planet. The surface rippled, then collapsed inward like rotting fruit. Carter's blood ran cold. Ziara's final words were barely audible over the static. Fight with us, or we all die alone. The screen went dark. Harlow exhaled slowly. God help us. Outside, the stars began to vanish, one by one. The UEF Curiosity hung motionless in space, caught between two nightmares, the retreating Synthari swarm and the approaching void maw. Captain Harlow's fingers hovered over the comms panel, Earth's Defense Command waiting for his report. Dr. Carter didn't wait for orders. His hands flew across the console, pulling up every scrap of data on the hybrids. Zara's right, he said. Their DNA doesn't just adapt, it rejects assimilation. The void maw can't consume what it can't control. A proximity alarm screamed. The view screen flickered as the void maw's tendrils brushed against the edge of the system, a nearby asteroid dissolving into dust. We can't fight that, Lieutenant Voss whispered. Harlow's jaw tightened. We don't have to. We just have to outlast it. Then, a new signal flared on the scanners. Multiple contacts. Fast. Closing in. More synthery, Voss asked, hands shaking. Carter's screen resolved the image first. No, he breathed. It's them. The hybrid ship tore through the void, its hull a grotesque fusion of human metal and synthery biology. It didn't dock with the Curiosity. It connected, organic tendrils latching onto the hull like a parasite. The airlock hissed open. Sergeant Rivas stepped through first, his body more synthery than human now, chitinous armor plating his frame. Behind him, dozens of hybrids followed, their eyes glowing with eerie purpose. Harlow's Marines raised their weapons, but Rivas didn't attack. We're not here to fight you, he said, his voice layered with something deeper, something alien. We're here to save you. Zara emerged last, her bioluminescence pulsing in rapid bursts. The void maw is weakness, hunger, chaos. She looked at Carter. But hybrids? We are order. A shudder ran through the ship. On the view screen, the void maw twisted toward them, sensing their presence. Zara's tendrils spread. Now we fight. The hybrids moved as one. They didn't need ships. They didn't need weapons. They were the weapon. Rivas led the first wave, his modified body launching into the void without a suit, surviving where no human could. The others followed, a swarm of their own, slamming into the void maw's tendrils with terrifying precision. Where they struck, the darkness recoiled. On the Curiosity's bridge, Carter watched in stunned silence as the hybrids tore into the entity, their adaptive biology resisting the maw's hunger. For the first time, the all-consuming shadow hesitated. It's working, Voss gasped. Harlow didn't celebrate. For how long? Zara's voice crackled over the comms, strained but triumphant. Long enough. The void maw screamed, a sound that vibrated through the ship's hull like a dying star. And for the first time since this nightmare began, it retreated. The UEF Curiosity shuddered as its engines roared to full thrust, alarms wailing through the corridors. On the command deck, Captain Harlow gripped the armrest of his chair, his knuckles white. The view screen flickered, struggling to process the impossible sight unfolding outside. Space itself was moving. At first, it looked like a distortion, a ripple in the fabric of reality. Then the stars began to vanish, swallowed by a creeping darkness. Not empty void, something alive. Report, Harlow barked. Lieutenant Voss's voice was tight. Multiple contacts. No, correction, thousands of contacts. They're biological, sir, not ships, organisms. The scanners painted the nightmare in cold, clinical detail. Vast, chitinous shapes, each the size of a battleship, pulsing with veins of bioluminescence. They moved in perfect unison, a swarm stretching across the black like a living storm front. Dr. Carter burst onto the bridge, his face pale. The alien, Zara, she's awake, and she's terrified. Harlow didn't hesitate. Bring her up here. Now. Zara moved differently in gravity. Her steps were light, her tendrils adjusting effortlessly to the ship's pull. But her eyes were locked on the view screen, her body rigid. You know what those are, Harlow said. It wasn't a question. Zara's voice was soft, almost musical, but laced with something darker. Synthery swarm, my people. She turned to them, her alien face unreadable. You should not have found me. A sharp crack echoed through the hull as the nearest bioship discharged something. A projectile. A pulse. The Curiosity rocked violently, consoles exploding in showers of sparks. They're firing, Voss yelled. Not firing. Zara corrected, speaking. The comms screeched, then resolved into that same guttural voice from before, now deafening. Final warning. Yield the queen spawn. Harlow set his jaw. And if we don't? Zara answered before the swarm could. Then they will take me, and they will consume you. Silence. Then, Captain, Voss's voice was raw. They're launching something, smaller organisms, heading straight for us. The scanners lit up with dozens of fast-moving blips, each a fraction the size of the main ships but closing fast. Carter leaned in, squinting. Are those? Boarding pods, Zyro whispered. They will tear this ship apart to reclaim me. Harlow didn't hesitate. Battle stations. Prepare for breach. The first pod hit like a meteor, slamming into the Curiosity's hull with a sound like bones breaking. The second struck before the echoes faded, then the third. Then the screaming started. Security teams rushed toward the impact sites, pulse rifles humming to life. They arrived just as the pods opened, splitting like eggshells to reveal horrors inside. Xanthari warriors, their exoskeletons glistening, limbs ending in serrated claws. They moved in eerie silence, flowing through the corridors like liquid shadow. Gunfire erupted. A warrior went down, its carapace smoking, then twitched, its wounds sealing before their eyes. They regenerate, someone shouted. Ziara watched the carnage unfold on the bridge monitors, her tendrils coiled tight. You cannot fight them, she said quietly. Not like this. Harlow turned to her, his voice steel. Then how? For the first time, something like determination flickered in Ziara's eyes. Run. The Curiosity lurched as the engines flared, swinging the ship hard to starboard. The swarm followed, relentless. Somewhere in the chaos, Carter realized the truth. This wasn't a rescue mission. It was a hunt, and they were the prey,